Greetings, beloveds. This is Amy Caryn Johnson, the Earth Channel. And again, as part of Gaia's message, I have a poem for you. From pain to peace and peace to new pain, this physical world is full of illusions. When conditions for peace seem shaky at least, the pain can go deep without abrasions. They say words can't hurt, yet when they are within, hearing them spoken rips a hole of vast proportion. That's why we must face our denial and embrace the child within, no matter the distortion. You are loved, you are safe, you are held by love's consortium. So most of you know that I am in Colorado, the Northwest metro area, if you've paid attention to the YouTube videos. And I am not that far away from the tragedy that happened this week in Boulder, the shooting. And had another tragedy happen closer to home. One of my neighbors committed suicide yesterday. And so I felt the need to speak to pain and what astrology has to offer us when we are in pain. I have known people and heard of people who are in the midst of such struggle, such pain from all different causes, and including myself. It seems like it will never end. And so one of the gifts that astrology has to offer us, and what it offered me in one of my times of despair, is a notion of when this period will be over. So what I was about to say was that I have known and have heard of at least a handful of incidents where someone was just about through with this difficult, painful period in their lives, and yet they didn't know. They didn't know that the end was in sight, and they gave up. My neighbor is definitely an example. For all I knew, he was really looking forward to actually moving. He was all but closed and packed up, getting ready to move to somewhere new that he and his wife were really looking forward to, and he ended it. It's really difficult to understand. I can see how he was in pain, though, and I do think it was somewhat impulsive. That's what his wife, his widow, thinks as well. The other example I've at least heard of, at least relative to suicide, is Robin Williams. I have heard that he was going through one of the most difficult astrological periods and was almost finished with it when he took his own life. And I know that there are people who commit suicide because of the physical pain that they are in. And my heart just aches for them, because physical pain can be so difficult and mysterious to, diagnose the cause of, to get rid of, to cure, to find relief. And with the origins of astrology coming from the Vedas, another thing that comes from the Vedas is Ayurveda, and that has to do with our health. I think we do need to return to some of these roots, and even astrology itself is related to the Vedas and our health in certain ways. I know that my health struggles have shown up in astrology. But the time in particular for me when I realized how much help astrology could truly be was after I had been trying to learn about relationships for many years after my last divorce. and dating and having failed relationship after failed relationship, I finally realized that I was going through a difficult period and that it was not likely that I was going to find love. At that time, I thought it was within the next year or two. And it was just such a relief to me, actually. I know that when I was younger, that would have been horrifying to me. And I'm sure some of you can relate to the fear that we are never going to find someone, or that we won't find someone anytime soon, and the loneliness that can come with that. But I had been what felt like banging my head against a wall for so long that I was relieved to be given what felt like to me permission to give up and to stop trying for a while, at least give myself a break and just not date, or at least not expect anything. And so I had mentioned in the comments of last week's video that there are a couple of astrologers that I have been following who provide educational videos, or at least videos that tell you, about transits and how they might affect you based upon your rising sign, and in particular your moon sign. Joni Petrie is one of them. Have a lot of respect for her. And Kapil Raj is another one. He has a ton of videos, and starting from very basic to starting to get more complex over, I think, the last decade. And both of them use the Lahiri Ayanamsha. And I'm sorry if that's a little advanced for some of you, but the difference is that when I have used the Lahiri Ayanamsha, this calculation point, and you can find this on astro.com, one of the most common places to find your chart, the timing and the description of my specific challenges and specific, fortunate times has been so exact. If I change one way or another, I used to use tropical, but things are way too early using tropical, and especially Western astrology. But with the Lahiri and with Vedic astrology, the timing was just right on. Those times in your life where you can actually remember at least the month and the year, if not the actual day, when certain things happened. Significant things like that are going to show up. And Vedic astrology, honestly, will tell you a lot of, things, challenges and even opportunities that may never happen. And so the last thing I would want for any of you is to read some of these reports and get scared. But the best thing that I think astrology has to offer is the vision of the light at the end of the tunnel, so that we know that if we can just bide our time, appreciate different things, get through this period, then things will shift. And furthermore, for me, to speak to the second most important gift that I believe astrology has to offer us, it is knowing ourselves better. When we know ourselves and we realize where our strengths lie and perhaps where our weaknesses lie, for me at least, I was ready to accept that, what my life would be like and make the most of it. Again, I know some people are going to panic when they hear certain things. And my horoscope, my readings, my interpretations of transits and just of myself, again, say really good things and really bad things. Vedic astrology in particular phrases things in ways that sound very dramatic and very, very bad sometimes. So please, if you do look into these things, take it with a grain of salt. The way I would prefer to do readings is to hear from someone if they are having a hard time. And then I can look for what might be triggering that in their chart and let them know when they can expect things to shift, rather than making them expect that they're going to have a hard time when they may never have a hard time. I haven't found anything in particular that makes certain things happen versus not. However, I do know that we are going to hit certain things again and again in our lives until we learn the lesson from them. So, in particular, I know that historically, our culture, especially Western culture, going back to the unfortunate events of this past week, has taught men in particular, to some extent women as well, to not show and express our emotions, and that to do so is weak. And I believe that has led to a lot of these unfortunate things happening. And so I would really like to encourage, I did a video on this a few weeks ago, everyone to not only look at indicators for the side of yourself that represents the gender that you associate with, that you identify as. So for me, for example, I identify as female. In particular, that makes Venus and the moon indicators of that side of me. However, having been single for a while, I'm fairly well in touch with my masculine side as well, represented by Mars and Jupiter in particular. So the sun can also represent the masculine side to some extent. And when you are in a relationship, sometimes you can depend upon the other person to play that side of you out so that you don't have to. Excuse me. Every time I talk about these deep issues, I have to clear my throat chakra. So please, even if you are in a relationship, work on being whole. Work on embracing those parts of yourself that perhaps you are leaving to others to express. Get therapy if you need it, even if you're not sure if you need it. Get it individually, get it as a couple, and reach out for help, please. It's there. And when we try to deal with our problems by just sticking our head in the sand and, watching TV or other forms of escape, those problems just fester and they just get worse. We are meant to discover ourselves and to work on ourselves to some extent. And astrology shows that. When you look at the signs and the way that they are ordered, we begin with Aries and the fire sign. The fire signs in particular are about our dharma, our purpose for being here. Then we move to earth signs. In particular, the second one is Taurus, but earth signs in general speak to our relationship with the physical world, to resources and nourishment, wealth as well. Then we move to air signs. Gemini would be the third. We move to our relationships with other people in our lives, and those air signs speak to that. And then finally, we reach water signs. Water signs are our emotions, and water signs also have to do with the way that we leave this world, the way that we become detached from it and recognize the fullness of who we truly are. Instead of being just a drop of water, we eventually realize that we are part of a vast ocean. And it's not to say that we don't have some individuality. That's why we enter these physical bodies, is to explore individuality. And basically, I believe that by exploring our individuality, we are exploring duality. I believe in reincarnation. We have multiple lives to do this, to explore these different aspects of individuality. And by finding the love, the expression of love in each different aspect, we eventually find the connection with everything and everyone else, the oneness. And we actually expand it because, before we started incarnating and having different lives, love was vast, but it was still a somewhat more limited concept in terms of what it could encompass. But every time we incarnate into a physical body, we forget about that oneness and we explore these different ways of being individuals. We discover one more little slice of that oneness and how it can be expressed as love just in that little part of it. And thereby, that little part gets expanded. So that, I think, is a beautiful way of looking at our Dharma, our purpose for being here. And I hope and pray that everyone watching this video, and that it reaches those who need it, finds that purpose and finds the peace that comes when we open up to the idea that we are more than just these physical bodies. There is more to life and the universe than just this earth, as wonderful and beautiful as Earth can be. Earth herself, and I'll get to her message in a moment, is wanting to ascend, is wanting to get to that next level of love and oneness. It's not complete dissolution into the source of all things, but it is more flowy. It's where we will be able to communicate much more easily and see that we're not all that different. We'll get our needs met better. We'll be able to manifest more quickly. But before we can manifest more quickly, we have to get really clear on what we want to manifest. Because right now, some of us are still attached to those painful things because we feel like we need to validate them first. As it spoke about in the poem, we need to embrace our inner children and be our own parents. No one else is going to do it for us. Most of you watching this are mature enough, probably adults, that you know what a child needs. And you know that you need that love as well. So give it to yourself, please. So I'll invite you to connect with Mother Earth, Gaia, with me. If you'd like to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Gaia would like all of you to breathe into your heart right now. And if it feels a little bit difficult to do that, try grounding first. Feel the light of the heavens come down through your crown, down through your body, down through your feet into earth. And then up from the core of the earth, through your feet, body, and pausing at your heart, and just breathe into your heart right there. When we take a deep breath, our lungs expand and give our hearts a hug. It's one of the best reasons I can think of to take a deep breath. So Gaia wants me to clearly invite all of you watching this to please send me, Amy, a message. I'll be sure to include my email in the comments below. If you are having a hard time, and if you can describe that time, and you can offer your birth information, it will be kept confidential. It's up to you whether you would like to share that or not. And if you would like a Vedic astrology reading, please do include your birth time. I cannot do rectifications at this time for birth time, so please make sure that you have it, preferably from a birth certificate. And if it's not from a birth certificate, then accept the possibility that the timing may be off. But I would be happy to offer you that light at the end of the tunnel. When will this period shift? What do you have to learn from it? What shift in perspective might bring you more peace? Might be the missing piece that you need to understand yourself and your purpose here at this time. These are free readings, but please offer positive feedback once you receive them. Offer a review out of gratitude, because when you offer your gratitude in return for receiving something, its value becomes that much greater. And it makes it much more likely that whatever you hear will be exactly what you need to hear. But above all, please love yourself. Know that you are loved by the universe, by Mother, Father, God, by Gaia, by me, by your guides, by those you have incarnated with in previous lives. If this is what you need right now, feel the wings of an angel wrapping around you as a hug. Find a way to connect with nature so that nature might show you just how much Mother Earth loves you. Might give you a sign. the reason for pain when it happens, when it comes, is to remind us that this world, this physical world, is temporary, temporal, changing. Our physical bodies will always end at some point. But as we come to identify more and more with Source, with our higher selves, we come to identify with our souls and our being, which never dies. And so if you successfully identify with that self completely, you essentially become immortal. You will not be so affected by the whims of this physical world. If everything just goes great for us all the time, we always have perfect weather, perfect relationships, then we can come to mistake this world for the ultimate reality, which it is not. We're here to learn the slow, hard way of manifesting. And that lesson waits until we can truly find and see that all things come from Spirit. All things come from the life force that flows within, unseen. That is the source of miracles. I pray you all find the peace of identifying with that force, with that self, with the source. Thank you so much for joining me, beloveds. Namaste. Like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.